Well, let's unpack this with Will McCallum in London. He's the head of oceans at Greenpeace UK. Will, welcome to the News Hour. Thanks for joining us. Why have these talks been so unsuccessful so far?
Well, in June in Lisbon at the UN Ocean Conference, the Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the egoism of some countries was going to be what held up these talks. And he was proven right. I've just got back from 2 weeks in the United Nations talking with delegates, talking with governments, trying to get this agreement over the line. And I have to say, it is simply the intransigence, the unwillingness of some countries to really negotiate and to seek that common ground that means they didn't come to an agreement. We're desperately hopeful that they will convene an emergency session, ideally by the end of this year, because to be frank, the oceans simply can't wait.
So the countries that are unwilling to negotiate, what are their reasons behind this and who are they?
What we saw was some countries being completely unwilling to meet the needs of groups like the G77 or the Africa group. So we saw wealthier countries like the EU, like the US, unwilling to put money on the table to simply agree that the resources of the ocean, they are the common heritage of mankind, and that means that all countries should benefit from them. So that unwillingness to put money on the table ultimately meant that it was impossible to build strong alliances pushing for environmental protection. And we saw countries like Russia and China really take advantage of the lack of those alliances. So it wasn't just one actor, it was many different factors going on. But ultimately, these treaty negotiations have taken nearly 20 years. 20 years is far, far too long for any group of governments to try and come to a decision. We have to see urgent action this year, and we're calling for ministers from countries, heads of state and senior political ministers to attend the next round of talks, because it's quite clear that those people in the room were not able to come to any conclusions.
The oceans are so important in sustaining all life on Earth. So why have things like fishing in the high seas been unregulated for so many years?
For a very long time, these international waters, which cover half of our planet, were so far away, they were out of sight and out of mind. We see just very, very few countries operating out there. Just 5 countries are responsible for more than 90% of all fishing on the high seas. So really, they just haven't received that level of attention because it's not very many people out there. And yet we all depend on the health of these international waters. So whilst 5 countries might be causing the problem, maybe a few more if you add deep sea mining into the mix, we all are unfortunate enough to lose out when they continue to overfish in the way that they do.
And how is the changing nature of the oceans affecting those who rely on the seas for their livelihoods, like fishermen and fishing villages, as well as island nations who are already acutely feeling the impact of the climate crisis?
I was lucky enough to be there with Greenpeace's delegation, which had representatives from small fishing communities across the world, including some island nations. And they told delegates in no uncertain terms, your delay equals destruction for the oceans around my island, around my community. One of our delegates made did not hesitate to say that failure in these negotiations was failing fishermen. Fishermen ultimately depend on healthy oceans. They depend on fish. More than 3 billion people around the world depend on fish as their primary source of protein. Now, those people desperately needed a treaty to secure the health of the oceans, and they didn't get one.
And hopefully these countries will come to some sort of agreement to protect the oceans. Will McCallum, live to us there from London, we'll really appreciate you speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.